The impact of border closures on businesses has been huge, particularly in terms of skill shortages. To discuss this now, I'm joined by Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce General Manager, Michaela Blacklock. Good morning and nice to see you.
You too, Chris.
I reckon it's time to open up the borders to the workers that we need, because I think we are going to see an increase of pricing if we don't do something. What's your gut feeling about all this?
Yeah, notwithstanding the fact that there's always a need for us to be safe in doing so, it's time for us to look at some creative responses to how we can close some of the skills shortage gaps that we know that we have and that we're going to have for the foreseeable future.
Is it possible to get some of these workers in Christchurch? I mean, Christchurch NZ was trying to pivot and help people get into employment, or is that just a nice thing to hear about, but is it really reality, I suppose?
I think it's going to be a combination of solutions. We know that there are 9,000 new job seekers, and there'll be some instances where there are some skills that match or that they're close enough to do some on-the-job training, and certainly employers are motivated to do that, and that's happening in certain circumstances. But when you consider that across Canterbury we've traditionally had somewhere in the order of 50,000 migrant workers to help us to fill those gaps.
Has it been 50,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if it's that in terms of that skills match, even if they were a perfect match, it's unlikely that we're going to find that there are enough people on that job seeker list to be able to fill those gaps.
Michaela, is there a way to transition job seekers into the in-demand roles? And I guess my question would be, what are the in-demand roles at the moment?
Yeah, I think we can't get away from the fact that this isn't a new problem. We had a skills shortage issue before COVID, and what's happened is that the COVID impact has exacerbated that demand for skills in some areas, and in other areas we're seeing continued growth. So Canterbury's traditionally had really good export prospects in manufacturing, agriculture, technology, and those areas continue to grow, and they continue to have areas that are in demand in terms of skills. So in terms of transition, we've got to remember that there's also the review of vocational education that's partway through, and that wider education review program that's aimed at long-term planning for skills. But right now we've got some short-term needs and some medium-term needs, and they're the things that we really need to think creatively, because that transition of skills isn't something that happens overnight necessarily.
That's true. Okay, so in Canterbury right now, what do you need? If I had a golden something wand and said, bing!
Yeah.
Would you like that?
That would be great.
Like a Cinderella's godmother, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
What do you need right now?
There are wide-ranging skill needs, but if I were to pick a couple off the top of my head, we've seen over the last 6 years 60% growth in agriculture, and I think people think that agriculture is one particular type of skill need. There's actually a real variety, and if you think about some of the things that might sit in and around technology and engineering, those things aren't necessarily skills that we have in ready demand. And same across the technology sector. We've had a skills shortage across the technology sector for a really long time, and that will continue as we continue to grow and develop our startup ecosystem and our businesses grow in that space. People want to do business from New Zealand, and they can. And so that means that it's that attraction of skills and the growth of skills. The combination of those two things becomes really important. This
may be too early to discuss this, but I imagine there are so many cool startups or technology startups happening in the likes of secret locations at the airport with battery-powered aircrafts and flying, drones for humans and that type of thing, which I think is just great. And I'm actually fully supportive of the council even putting money into that. This is great. It's Christchurch. I mean, those industries, though, are they very much in the infancy in terms of what they can contribute to the local economy just yet from Christchurch?
I think relatively speaking, that's a smaller contribution, but there are so many clever businesses who are doing extremely well and growing fast, and a lot of what they do, they export. And so those stories are ones that we need to try and bring to the fore locally, so that attracts young people to go into those areas of study, so that we can grow our own in terms of the talent in those areas. There's an enormous amount happening in that space, and in particular right now in the startup space, there's a huge amount of activity, and what we're seeing also is expats coming home and wanting to invest in businesses and wanting to start their own.
You make a good point. There are quite a few Christchurch-based companies that have got a massive international market that some of us we'll probably have heard of them, but we don't kind of acknowledge them because they do their thing. But maybe it is time to give them the publicity they deserve to keep them to inspire others, without sounding namby-pamby?
No, I don't think that's namby-pamby at all. I think there's a two-pronged approach to that. And I think traditionally those companies have stayed under the radar locally because their market is offshore, but their market for talent is also onshore. And also, as you say, they can be encouraging and growing the ecosystem alongside others. So I think that's a perfectly reasonable reason for us to spend time, money and resource telling those stories.
And speaking of resources, the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce has always been putting up really decent, helpful resources to your members as well, which I think it's just, it's good. We need, sometimes it's just easy. If I want to know what the government's doing or what services are available for small business, I like how it's all truncated down for me so I don't have to think too much. You do all the thinking. But people can still become a member of the Chamber of Commerce, can't they?
Absolutely they can, yeah. So just give us a call. That's the easiest way to do it. Have a conversation with one of our customer experience team. We can talk you through what the services are that are available. And I think the important thing is that right from very large businesses to very small, there's an offering available for all different types and levels of business, all different sectors, and we welcome businesses across Canterbury engaging with us.
Yeah, and you're a great intersection, so if people are wanting to know where to go for resources, it's all there. It's all there. Nice to see you. I wonder if I'll see you before Christmas. Possibly, do you think? Who knows?
It depends on how busy Leanne Watson is.
Very busy at the moment.
She may ask me to stand in at some point, and if she does, it would be a pleasure to come back.
Well, do you know, shall I say Merry Christmas to you? I can be the first person.
Oh, Lord, okay.
Hang on, what's the date today? Is it too early to do Merry Christmases? Oh, no, let's do it, eh?
Merry Christmas, Chris.
It's the 17th of November. I'm ready for Christmas.
You're scaring me.
You know Mike Gowdy's got his Christmas tree up already.
Oh, that's frightening.
And his decorations. I would say he's got no life, but he's got a good life. Good to see you.
You too.
NewstalkZB, it's 10 to midday.